It is the middle of January in the valley, the kind of cold that makes the snow squeak under your boots and the fence wire ring when you touch it. 10 below. You are crossing a barnyard in the dark with a lantern, and you come to a low wooden building with a slanted roof, and you lift the latch and step inside. And the first thing you notice is that there is no cord, no wire running out to the house, no red bulb glowing in the rafters, not one single watt of electricity in this building, and there never has been. And yet you feel it on your face the moment the door shuts. It is warm in here, not hot. Warm. Your breath has stopped smoking. And up on a bar above your head, in a long, tight row like laundry on a line, there are 30 hens packed shoulder to shoulder, asleep, heads tucked back under their own wings. Not one of them is shivering. Not one comb is black at the tip. There is a pan of water by the door, and it is not frozen. And a mile down the road, an English fellow has a coop half this size, with a heat lamp burning night and day, and last winter that coop burned to the ground at 2 in the morning and took his barn with it, and he lost every bird he had. He was trying to keep them warm, and the trying is what killed them. Now I want you to sit with that a moment, because everything you have been told about this is upside down. You have been taught that a cold bird needs a warm room, and that a warm room comes out of a wall socket. That lamp is the new thing. It has been around less than 100 years. Hens have walked through winters on this earth for thousands of them, in Russia, in Norway, in Ohio, roosting in barns and trees and brush piles, with nobody to hang a bulb for them. The bird did not need the lamp. We needed to feel like good keepers. That is not the same thing at all. My name is Amos. I am Amish, and I farm a valley here in Ohio, the same bottomland my father worked and my grandfather before him. I did not learn this out of a book or from a man at a college. I learned it from my grandfather, who kept birds through 60 winters and never once ran a wire out to them. And he learned it from his own people, back down the line farther than the names go. This is not knowledge I own. It is knowledge that passed through me on its way to you. So stand here in the warm dark with me a while. There are 6 old ways we hold the heat in a coop in this valley, and I am going to give you every one, with the numbers. There is the bedding on the floor, which is a furnace that runs on leaves. There is the air, and the air is where nearly everybody goes wrong. There is the flock itself, and how many of them you keep in how much room. There is the bar they sleep on. There is the bird's own body, which is built better than anything you could buy her. And there is the stone and the wall and the wool of the building, which I handed you twice before and will not repeat. 6 ways. And running underneath all 6 there is one number that is the whole target, and it is not the number you think. And before we are done, I am going to tell you the truth about that red lamp, because somebody ought to. So let me start you down at your feet, because the floor of that coop is a furnace, and it burns nothing but what falls off a tree. The old folks call it the deep litter. At the end of summer, not in December, you lay down 4 inches of pine shavings on the bare floor. Shavings, or clean straw, or dry leaves raked out of your own fence rows, and leaves are free and always have been. Then every week you throw down 1 more inch on top. You do not shovel anything out. You keep adding, 1 inch a week, until by the deep of winter you stand on 8 to 12 inches of bedding, and you stir it 15 or 20 minutes with a fork once a week, and the hens will do half that work for you if you scatter a handful of grain to set them scratching. And here is what is happening in that pack. That bedding is not dirt, it is alive. It is a slow fire made of bacteria, working through the carbon in the shavings and the nitrogen in the droppings, and working gives off heat, the same as it does in you. It runs a few degrees warmer than the room, and down at the floor where the birds spend their day, warmer still. And the beautiful part is that it is a thermostat. When the weather turns hard and the coop cools, that fire works harder, not softer. The colder it gets outside, the more it gives. Show me a machine at the store that does that. Now you must get the wet of it right, and there is no gauge for this, only your hand. You want the bedding at the damp of a wrung-out sponge. Reach under the top layer, take a fistful, squeeze, open your hand. If it holds together in a ball like putty, it is too wet, and you add dry shavings. If it crumbles apart the moment you open your fingers, that is exactly right. And you already know this fire in your own body. Think of a fever. When your body is fighting something off, you run hot, and that heat is not a punishment, it is the work itself throwing off warmth. The deep litter has a fever all winter long, and your hens sleep on top of it. And in April you fork the whole of it out, and what you carry to the garden is the finest compost you will ever put on ground. The coop makes its own fuel, burns it to keep your birds alive, and then pays you in the fertility of your garden for the trouble. Now, the second way is the one that sounds like a lie the first time somebody says it to you, and this is where nearly every good-hearted person on earth kills their own birds with kindness. Letting cold air into your coop will make it warmer. In the deep of winter you cut holes in the building and leave them open, and the birds do better for it. Every instinct in you is screaming to stuff a rag in every crack. That instinct is wrong. A hen is a wet animal. Every hen in that building breathes out about 1/1400ths of a pound of water every single day. Just breathing. So 10 hens in a wooden box are putting near 1.5 gallons of water into the air every day, all winter. Seal that box up tight, and you have not built a coop, you have built a kettle. And here is the hinge of the whole thing. Warm air holds about 4 times as much water as cold air does. So all that damp floats invisible near the ceiling, and the second it touches a cold wall or a cold window, it lets go and lays itself down as frost and drip, right onto your birds and their bedding. And a hen can take cold, terrible cold, cold that would kill you and me in a night. What she cannot take is wet, because her whole coat is a layer of down that works by trapping still air against her skin. Dry down is the finest coat ever made. Wet down is not a coat. It is a wet towel, and you knew that in your own body before I said it. A January day at 20 degrees, dry and still, and you walk out in a good coat and you could work all day. Now 40 degrees with rain running down your neck and your shirt stuck to your back. 40 is warmer than 20 by every number there is, and the wet one is the one that puts you shaking to the bone. 20 and dry beats 40 and soaked, every time. Your hen lives by that same law, and here is the piece that will change your winter for good. Those black tips on the combs, folks say the cold did it. The cold did not do it, the damp did it. Moist air settling on a comb in the night is what freezes it. In a dry coop at 0, combs come through clean. In a wet coop at 25, they blacken. It was never the cold, it was the water. So here is the rule, simple enough to carry in your head. 1 square foot of open vent for every 10 square feet of floor. 100 square foot coop wants 10 square feet of open air. Put your vents up high, under the ridge, where that warm, wet air rises and wants to go anyhow, and put low openings near the ground, but above the level where the birds roost. High and low, and the building breathes on its own, cold air drawn in low, warm, wet air pushed out high, no fan, no wire, no watt. That is a chimney, and the coop runs it for free. What you must never do is put an opening at the height of the roost, blowing straight across the birds while they sleep. Air moving past you is a draft. Air moving above you is ventilation. The difference between those two words is the difference between a live flock and a dead one. And there is a test for it that costs nothing and never lies. Find a cobweb up in the rafters of your coop and leave it be. Do not sweep it. Now watch it. If that web drifts, slow and lazy, barely moving, your air is exactly right. If it is whipping and shivering, you have a draft, and you must cut it down. And if it hangs dead still, like it was painted on, your coop is not breathing at all, and you have a problem tonight, not next week. In winter, you may close down about a quarter of what you had open in July. A quarter, never all of it. If you take one thing out of this whole hour, take that. You do not close a coop. And if you go out some morning and find frost on the inside of the window glass, do not tell yourself it is pretty. That frost is your ventilation telling you plain that it has failed, and every ounce of that water was in the air your birds breathed all night. The third way is the one that will make you laugh. because the answer to a cold coop is more chickens, and it is real. A hen is not a thing you keep warm. A hen is the furnace. She is a little stove running at 106 degrees, all day and all night, burning corn. Every bird in that room puts out about as much heat as a 10-watt bulb, and she walks around while she does it. 30 hens is 300 watts of heat on legs, and you did not pay a cent for it, and it never blows a fuse. So here is the number: 4 square feet of floor per bird. Go out and measure your coop today, honest, with a tape, because the number one mistake a new keeper makes is building too big. He is proud, he is generous, he builds his hens a palace, and then cannot understand why they sit hunched and miserable all winter. 20 hens in 300 square feet will shiver. 30 hens in 150 will be warm. A coop that is too big is a cathedral, and you are trying to heat a cathedral with candles. And you already know this in your own body. Think of a small kitchen with the family in it on Christmas Day, 8 people talking, and how you have to crack a window even in December. Nobody lit a stove for that. That was just people. Now think of a big cold church on a Sunday when only 4 folks came, and how it never warmed up no matter how long you sat. Bodies make heat, and put them close enough together, and it has nowhere to go but back into you. Your hens have known this forever, which is why they shove shoulder to shoulder on that bar and share it out among themselves. Now here is the 4th way, and it lives about 3 feet off the ground, and it is the smallest detail in the whole of this, and one of my favorites: the roost. Set your bar 2 to 4 feet up, because heat rises, and the difference between the floor of a coop and the top of a roost can be 18 degrees. 18. Same building, same night. The bird that sleeps high sleeps in a different climate than the bird that sleeps low, and she knows it, which is why they fight over the top bar. But it is the bar itself I want you to hear about. It must be rounded and 2 to 4 inches thick, not a broom handle, not a thin dowel. And here is why, and it is a lovely thing. A hen does not grip a roost like a parrot on a branch. She squats down flat on top of her own feet, so her toes lie out under her, and then she settles her breast down over them, and her breast feathers come down like a quilt and cover her toes for the night. She brings her own blanket. Give her a thin stick and she must curl her toes around it, and they stick out below into the open air all night, bare, and that is how a hen gets frostbitten feet in a coop that is otherwise sound. Give her 8 to 10 inches of that bar apiece, so the flock can line up tight and press together, and she will do the rest herself. The 5th way is not a thing you build at all, it is a thing you leave alone, and it is the bird's own body, which is engineered better than any coop you or I will ever put up. You have watched a hen stand barefoot on frozen ground and wondered why her feet do not freeze off. Down in her legs, the blood running to her feet, and the blood coming back up, run right against each other, and the hot blood going down hands its warmth over to the cold blood coming up before it ever reaches her toes. The heat turns around and goes back into her body instead of leaking out into the ice. Her feet run cold on purpose. There is almost nothing down there to lose. She carries her own heat exchanger, and she was born with it. And that comb on her head, and those wattles under her chin, those are not decoration. Those are radiators. That is where she throws off heat in July, because a bird cannot sweat at all. She runs her hot blood out through a thin, bare flag of skin to cool it, and that is exactly why the comb is the first thing to freeze in January. It is meant to shed heat. It is a window in a wall, which is why a bird with a great tall comb suffers in cold country, and a small tight comb does not, and if you are choosing your flock, that is worth knowing before you order. And you already know this in your own body. Your ears and your fingertips go numb and white first on a cold day, long before your chest does, for the same reason exactly. Your body sacrifices the edges to save the middle, so does hers. And the 6th I am handing you quick, on purpose, because I already put it in your hands twice. The stones, the south wall, the wool in the walls. If you sat with me through the house and through the greenhouse, you have all of it, and it works the same in a coop as in a kitchen. Physics does not care what is standing in the room, so I am not saying it over again. Bank the north side, face it south, wrap the roof, set your stones. Lift the building a foot off the ground so the wet cannot creep up into your bedding. And when the snow drifts against that north wall, do not shovel it away. That drift is free insulation laid on for you overnight, and in the corners and the nest boxes, dust a fine film of that white powder I told you about, because a bird fighting mites is a bird burning heat she needs for winter. Now I need to stop and speak to you plain about that red lamp, because the fellow down the road never got told and it cost him everything he had. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. So hear it 3 ways. First, the fire. That is a hot bulb hanging on a cord in a wooden box, over dry straw, in air full of feather dust so fine it hangs like flour, with animals underneath it that flap and jump in the dark. A heat lamp is the #1 cause of coop fires in this country, and coop fires do not stay in the coop. They take the barn, they take the hay, they take everything you spent 30 years building at 2 in the morning while you are asleep 100 yards away. You will not get there in time. Nobody does. Second, and this is the finer argument, and the one nobody ever makes. A hen grows her own winter coat. She puts down more down as the days shorten and the cold comes on, but only if the cold comes on slow. She has to be told. In a coop kept warm by a lamp, that message never arrives, so she never finishes putting the coat on. She goes into January in her summer clothes. And then comes the night the power fails in an ice storm, or the bulb burns out at 11 o'clock, and now you have half-dressed birds sitting at 10 below with no coat and no warning. The lamp does not protect her from the cold. It stops her from protecting herself, and then it leaves her. And you already know this in your own body. You know the man who keeps his house at 80 all winter, and he walks out to the mailbox in January and is sick by Thursday. And you know the other one, out in it every single day, and by the middle of December he hardly buttons his coat. He is not tougher, he is not braver. His body got told what was coming, and it made ready. The body prepares if you let it. The lamp takes away the hen's right to prepare. Third, a coop that needs a cord is not a coop, it is an appliance. And an appliance can be switched off by a storm, by a bill, by a squirrel on a line, and the moment your birds' lives hang on a wire you do not own, you are not keeping chickens, you are renting their survival from somebody else. And here is the target, plain, because everything hangs on it. You are not trying to make that coop warm, you are trying to hold it between 40 and 45 degrees. That is the whole job. You are keeping the water from freezing and the air from going wet, and everything I handed you today gets you there without a wire. Warmer than that is not a favor to your birds. It is a harm dressed up as kindness. Now here comes the turn, and I want you to lean in for it. Why did nobody ever tell you this? Why does every feed store put a rack of heat lamps up front in November, and not one of them anywhere in this country has ever hung a sign that says, "Pile up your leaves"? I will tell you, and there is no villain in it. Nobody is plotting against your chickens. It is simpler than that, and honestly, it is worse. There is no money in a pile of dead leaves. You cannot sell a wrung-out sponge. You cannot put a brand on a cobweb, and you cannot charge a man $10 a month for the heat coming off his own hens. The lamp has a price tag, a cord, a bulb that burns out and gets bought again, and a fellow whose job it is to sell it to you. The leaves have none of that. It is not a conspiracy. It is how the money runs, and the money never once ran toward the thing that was free. And it costs you both ways, because a cold, miserable flock stops laying and eats more doing it. She burns her feed to stay alive instead of turning it into eggs, so your feed bill climbs, and your egg basket empties in the same week. A coop built right pays you twice, in eggs you get and grain you do not buy. So let me set the whole of it in your hands. The deep litter, 4 inches at the end of summer, an inch a week to 8 or 12, wrung-out sponge, stirred weekly, a fire made of rot that burns hotter the colder it gets and pays you in compost come spring. The air, 1 foot of vent for every 10 feet of floor, high at the ridge and low above the roost, a quarter closed in winter and never more, and watch the cobweb. The flock, 4 square feet a bird, 10 watts apiece, and a coop too big is a cathedral, lit with candles. The roost, 2 to 4 feet up, a rounded bar 2 to 4 inches thick so her breast feathers tuck her own toes in. The body, which beats cold and loses to wet, and the stone and the wall, which you already have from me, 40 to 45 degrees. Dry beats warm, ventilate to heat. More birds, less room, and no wire, not ever. Now I want to hear from you, and I mean that true. Tell me down below where you live and what your winters do to you. And then tell me 2 numbers, honest ones. How many hens do you keep, and how many square feet is your coop? Do the arithmetic and tell me what you get, because I would wager a good many of you are about to find out that your coop is too big, and that you have been asking too few birds to heat too many boards. And tell me this too. Have you ever gone out on a January morning and found frost on the inside of that coop, on the glass or the nails, and thought nothing of it? Tell me, because you were being spoken to and nobody had taught you the language. I read every single comment, every one, because this knowledge does not live in books, it lives in barns and in kitchens and in the memory of folks like you. And before you go, let me tell you what I am setting out next time. There is a thing that falls out of the sky onto your roof, free, hundreds of gallons of it a year, more than your family could drink, and nearly every one of you lets it run off the edge and down a drain and away, and then pays money for the same thing to come out of a pipe. My grandfather never bought a